The following contains language unsuitable to some audiences. All characters appearing in this work are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Like, totally coincidental.
Alright, let's get this started. It was a warm Georgian morning. 12 college students dragged themselves from their drunken slumber and packed into the van, heading north. No one was quite prepared for what followed. Hi, my name is Alex. Over the past year, I, along with fellow interviewers Dylan and Shed City's James, sat down with these 12 participants to hear their stories. Several guest appearances chime in for additional commentary. In making this, we hope to shed light on a complex event that few have fully grasped. The result of this effort is the events that transpired in the van. Okay, so here, guys, take a seat. Come on, James, Dylan, Alexi. I want you here.
Well, listen, it's typography.
Hey, Alexi.
Hello.
Focus. So take a seat. Take a seat. Alexi is currently on my floor picking up spare change.
Alright, everyone pile in bed.
My name's Adam, and I'm a second year at Hampshire College. And I was an accessory to the theft of the phone.
Wow. Pleading guilty, huh?
I fully.
My name is Hannah. I'm a second year at Hampshire College.
My name is Colin, and I was in the car during the event.
So yeah, just your name and a fun fact about you.
My name is Sage. I'm obsessed with cows.
Obsessed with cows, huh?
A little bit.
Didn't see that coming. You want to just give your name with a good, big, booming voice?
My name is Gabe.
Greg, the natural fellow, Hampshire College, first year, he, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Hourglass. Oh no, I can't do that. I can't speak like Hourglass. I'm Sam. I'm a second year on the Hampshire Red Scare Frisbee team. I bring music to practice. That's kind of the thing I do. I deal with the music. I mean, Rhett has the speakers too, but...
What are you most famous for on Hampshire's campus?
Oh, my seagull noise.
Keenan and Forrest are, I don't want to say butt buddies, but very good friends. Keenan's a third year at Hampshire, I believe. Forrest is a first year. And they bonded very quickly, perhaps over being very fucking tall.
What is your collective name on the team?
We're the big fuckers. We go by the big fuckers.
Why is that?
Because we're big and we're fuckers.
Tomer, you've told the story a lot.
Too many times.
Yeah. But so we're going to ask you to tell one more time. A lot of different perspectives that have been shared, but I think you both have a very unique take on the team, yourselves, and the story. Things have been said about you guys, and your involvement. So I just want you to clear up the record and let everyone know, just starting from the beginning, what is the full account of the events that transpired in the van? And here's Derek.
So you're already recording?
Yeah.
Alright, well, here's how it really happened.
The date was... I don't remember what the date was.
So, there were 12 of us in a van coming back from a week in Georgia for spring break.
3-day tournaments and quite a lot of binge drinking, I would say.
We had 29 people there total. We rented a house, and we just had a great week. And then we had this, 20-hour van ride all the way back to Massachusetts. And on the way there, we broke it into 2 days. But on the way back, it was a straight shot, starting at 5 a.m., getting back at, 12 or 1. And so we were just packed into this van all day with nothing to do.
Well, we got in the vans very early in the morning. I, of course, got a bowl before we got in the vans. Listened to music, napped, very uncomfortable in the back, 4 people in that one aisle. It fucking sucks.
Alright, so I was in the middle of the van. Basically, if you're in the back of the van, no one's going to hear shit you're saying at all. It's hard to hear the front of the van, but middle is basically a perfect place to be an observer and then chime in if needed. I don't know, man. The side of the van's pretty comfortable. It's not the back, I'll say that. So I was pretty comfortable. I had legroom. I was sitting next to Greg, and I guess the main culprit, Alexi, on the end, was in the aisle seat in the middle. So I'm behind like Forrest, Keenan, that other kid. Shit.
Colin.
Yeah, the short one.
I mean, Adam is an insane human being. And I give him credit for even being with it enough to remember anything that happened in that van ride.
So essentially, to drive the van and take on one of the long-hour shifts, you have to be 21 years old. And the only people who were defensive drivers in the van were Keenan, Derek, Sage.
Derek took the 5 a.m. to, I believe this was 8:30 or 9 in the morning shift, which I slept through. Everybody slept through. That's the quiet, like, death shift where everybody's just silent.
The story starts in a very shitty fast food restaurant. We got up at 5 in the morning.
We're about halfway through the state. I've been driving all morning. It is 8:30 in the morning. We pull off of the highway in South Carolina. Forrest had been very insistent we go to a Bojangles. It was just like his thing. We're like, I wanted to go to a Waffle House because Waffle House is funny to me and kind of like sad and pathetic. But Forrest really wanted to go to Bojangles because he's from the South and really liked reminding us of that fact.
This kid been wanting Bojangles all week long.
I've been wanting Bojangles. I love me some Bo. It was Bo time.
It was Bo time.
It was Bo time, as they say.
Forrest is really annoying because it's from North Carolina and you have to get this, you have to eat that.
Oh my god, it's disgusting. It was really bad. I mean, it's fast food. I mean, I got what Forrest suggested I get, which was like Cajun chicken and biscuits and fries. I didn't like the fries, but he made me. And then I got, pink lemonade, because, when you have lemonade, you might as well have pink lemonade, right?
That's fair.
That's fair. I mean, it was morning. I'm like, all right, we got lunch. If I had I could use a little sugar. It was morning. It wasn't great pink lemonade because it had just corn syrup in it, and it's just like coating your tongue.
We just filled our bellies and ready to take on the day and confront some very strange challenges.
Start with Bojangles, everybody orders. I go into the bathroom. Someone's in the urinal, so I go in the stall.
I was in the urinal, actually.
Yeah, okay, he was in the urinal, so I go in the stall, and I start peeing, and I notice this phone on the toilet paper dispenser, and usually I'll see a phone, I take it to the cashier, whatever, but I sort of didn't feel like dealing with it. I was just exhausted. I was just someone else is gonna take it to the cashier, or the person who left it there is about to come back and find it. So I just walk out of the bathroom. I didn't care.
We're all finished. We're itching to get back on the road because we want to get home. We've got another 18 hours of driving.
So everyone's in the van but Alexi.
We're waiting for him, man. So we're trying to call him on the banana phone because Alexi and the banana phone, classic combination.
There's a moment where we had a running joke with Alexi that we had left him at Chipotle on the ride down, and we look and he's not actually in the van, and I'm like, oh wait, so is Alexi actually in the van? And everyone's like, no, he's in the bathroom. He comes out. As he's walking out, he looks at Sage, and Sage and I, and we're just like, come on, and he just holds up a phone and just shakes it at us in this kind of here it is kind of look. It was very strange. I'm just like, whatever, all right. As he gets in, everyone goes, Alexi, what is it? He's like, oh, I found the phone.
I heard him say it before we got out of the parking lot. I was like, I don't give a shit about what game Alexi's playing on his phone. He definitely didn't just find a phone. I don't know what other people thought, but I didn't think much of it.
Well, you also have to remember that the entire week he'd been making banana phone jokes and pretending to call people on his banana phone.
Right.
So we're like, oh, this is just a continuation of that. He's like, I found a real phone.
Yeah, and
it's that must just be your phone. I'm still not convinced at this point until he hands me the phone. I'm like, is that actually someone else's phone? He hands me the phone and it's got some text messages up with people who none of us have ever met before.
I didn't put two and two together that phone that he had was the phone that I had seen in the bathroom. And then we start to pull out of the Bojangles parking lot into this bigger parking lot. And I realized that, and I'm like, wait, Alexi has that phone? Why does he have that phone? And we start to pull out to the road, and that's when we all start to realize that Alexi took a phone.
So what did you first think when you realized that Alexi had taken this phone?
It took me a long time to realize that Alexi has taken this phone. Like, it took me longer than most people, I think, to realize that Alexi had taken this phone, which is, like, typical me.
I was sitting right next to him, and it even took me maybe like a minute to fully understand that he was not joking. The rest of the van didn't know shit. So our driver is taking us onto the highway as we were driving away from the restaurant with someone's phone that Alexi, God bless his soul, just decided he wanted. He saw it, he picked it up, he put it in his pocket because he said that's what you do in New York. You just take shit.
And we're like, Alexi, why have you taken this phone?
When that happened, I was like, Sage, stop the car. Like, Alexi has someone's phone. And I didn't say it that loud because I was just like, why is this happening? Like, she should stop. Why didn't she hear me?
We drive out, and Sage and I are just kind of like focusing on getting back to the highway. And as we're driving, everyone's like starting to be like, wait, like, is this your phone? And he's like, no, it's not my phone, it's not my phone. And then, and I am almost certain that everyone else missed this detail because this was an important detail that has not yet been brought up at all. The song Stay With Me by Lorraine Ellison comes on. And Sage and I just turn it up because that's become our like band theme song for some weird reason. And we listen to the entirety of that song as a band and all sing along and get into it. And just totally ignore actually dealing with it. We are listening to it as we go to the highway. We're all singing along to it, or at least like I am and Sage is. And then it finishes and we turn it down and Sage goes, okay, but really, whose phone is that? And then Alexi tells us when we're already on the highway for a couple minutes that he had just been sitting in the bathroom and had found the phone.
Like, this kid Alexi, who's super weird, by the way. We've discovered throughout the week that he's like one of the weirdest people we know.
Yeah. Great at the like stone-faced saying weird things, and you just don't know that he's not serious. You don't know if he's like what's going on. His face is just like he's just deadpan.
Perfect poker face.
And he says weird.
Could be a robot.
Probably
is a robot.
Okay, so what happened? Yeah.
Well, I had to use the bathroom, so I went in and I found a phone on the stall. I pretty much immediately got into the phone, just having fun with it. And as I was doing my business, I was looking through it and I was slightly entertained because as soon as I opened it, I saw that the first text message said something like, just finished taking a great shit at Bojangles.
This kid,
So the kid that owned the phone.
yes, taking a dump, you know. We got the facts. It was a number 2. And we
Edward.
knew that because Edward had sent a text to his friend saying, my shit finally came out, ... at the Bojangles. So this, and the timestamp was maybe 40 minutes before we left. So the kid had already been there, already ate, already left, already shat. The kid was probably doing his thing, texting, and then he went to wipe, put it down, forgot about it, walked out, left the restaurant. Fell into the hands of a criminal-minded person. Alexi just picked it up. It was on the toilet paper in those like weird plastic chassis things, just sitting on top. He's like, oh, phone, awesome.
And ended up pocketing it when I left. When I did leave, though, I realized that no one was in Bojangles anymore. Everyone had gone back to the van. So I felt a bit rushed to leave. And so, as I was approaching, I saw Sage giving me this like death stare from the driver's seat because she doesn't like to be held up.
Then Alexi comes strolling out of the Bojangles with the phone in his hand and kind of waves at me with the phone with his usual Alexi, like, quizzical look on his face.
And so I just waved the phone back at her because I wanted to be cheery.
Okay, get in the van. Like, why are you waving at me? Please just get in the van. And so he walks up to the side door. Door opens. He says, guys, I found this phone. And we're like, okay, Alexi, whatever. Hop in the van. Let's go. It's time to leave. And so he gets in. He sits down. And I drive away.
So now you have this phone. Now what?
We're on the highway in God knows where, South Carolina, with this robot in the car who has stolen a phone.
We're in the car going 75 miles an hour away from the place where he found it.
We all start to laugh and then like get kind of nervous.
There's like a few minutes of disbelief, and then pretty much everyone panics.
No, everyone cracked up.
Well, everyone cracked up, but then
There's several reactions. One is
Forrest just begins to panic.
Derek, turn the GPS off.
Yeah.
Turn the GPS off right now.
break the phone, smash the phone.
And we were like, all right, I was like, all right, hold on.
Forrest is like yelling that we should go just throw it out the window. We don't want it in the car. They're going to track us.
Are we being tracked? Like, make sure the GPS is off. Like, we can't be global position, guys. Like,
Why? What do they think's gonna happen if you're being tracked?
dude, I don't know. Right? Like, what is all the anxiety about having this phone? But, like, a lot of, like, people felt that way. People were like, we gotta get rid of this thing. It's a bomb.
I had this idea that if we turned the GPS on and just like got off at an exit ramp and tossed it out the window, these people would find it there and it would be like, oh, fine. So I'm just like, just get off the highway, like text them what exit and throw it out the window.
Which doesn't make any sense, by the way.
No.
That is an insane
No,
thing to
but
do.
I just like my first reaction was like, I don't want to have this with us.
Right, and Gabe was right there with you. He
Yeah.
was like, we'll throw it out the window right now. Gabe just wanted it gone.
Yeah, it would have been. I think would have been fine with throwing it out the window while the car was moving.
I had a couple of seconds of freak out, and then the rational part of my brain started asserting itself again, and I definitely started looking out for police cars. I used to be obsessed with mock trial. I did that in high school. So my brain immediately went to, oh hey, I can get arrested for this. I can be charged with this, this, and this. And I will go to jail because I failed to stop him. I made very, very sure that my hands were never anywhere near this. Because that was the first thing they were going to look for. Oh my god, if my fingerprints are on this thing, I'm going to go to jail. I think I wanted to be like miles away from the thing. I'm actually an accessory to theft right now.
I was thinking the police were going to come track us down. No one was thinking rationally really here at all. No one was thinking rationally.
So we just had this thing while we were in Georgia where Hannah lost her phone on the beach. We tracked it down online and like went out on the beach to where the GPS said it was and found it there.
I mean, Hannah's phone the previous day had been found by using her GPS. Like, you can do that pretty easily with an iPhone. And it was a Droid, so we didn't know what the deal was. So
Alexia hands it back to me. I put it on airplane mode so they can't track us.
So, Sam, you're the one that put it on airplane mode.
Yeah, and when I was trying to figure out how to put it on airplane mode, I was trying to figure out turn off the tracking and leave it on so we could still do stuff with it and like maybe use like Pandora or something on it to get some more save battery on all of our stuff.
And then the phone gets a call. And now
From
Alexia's
Logan
like,
Daniels.
From Logan Daniels, yeah.
Someone tries calling us and I just toss it back at Alexia and just like scare it like a little... I don't know, it's like when you pull a potato out of the oven, it's like you're playing hot potato with the phone, just toss it at Alexi.
And Alexi's like holding the phone, he's like, someone's calling. And Derek's, don't answer that.
We're all just like screaming at him not to answer the phone because what are we gonna say? We have your phone?
I was actually asleep when the whole thing started. I kind of like heard them saying something about a phone that wasn't Alexi's, and I was like, no, like, there's no way that we have this random phone in the car. And I heard them saying something like, someone's calling it, don't answer. And I was like, what are they talking about? And I think if I'd been awake and realized this, like, as we're pulling out of the parking lot, I probably would have been like, guys, we need to turn around.
Basically, once it was clear to everyone that Alexi had stolen this phone, I realized we had an opportunity.
Colin, who's really into this idea of getting off at the next exit, finding the next Bojangles, and putting it in the bathroom there.
Colin's like, oh man, oh my god, let's take it to the next Bojangles we see and leave it in that bathroom.
And then texting them that it was in the Bojangles like 2 exits down the highway.
Complete the cycle, you know? Just put it back in a comfortable environment for that phone.
Just pretend like they were just at Bojangles, they left it there, nothing happened, and they would get confused.
That fell apart because we didn't see another Bojangles for a while.
Well, and also none of us wanted to get off the highway and drive to one of the Bojangles.
That's the other thing. No one wanted to stop.
We're exhausted. We've been playing Ultimate for 3 weeks.
We just
3
want to
days.
get back to Massachusetts.
We just want to get home. No one's gonna go off get off the highway and look for another Bojangles to make Colin happy.
And I was like, no, all right, I want to milk this a little longer. I don't want to, that doesn't sound so great. And at this point, my process is that I see this as a bizarre and hilarious moment to just like totally milk for as much as I can. And so what happens is I start saying, like, we are all in this. And things like, legally we're all accomplices.
The first maybe 15 minutes, like, a lot of it is just a blur to me until Derek stepped in. Some would say as a leader with a torch, but, like, just an evil man.
Colin very quickly, like, figures out what I'm doing and just decides to, like, jump on board with the elevating the stakes to an unnecessarily high degree team. And, man, that was a powerful team.
2 camps formed, like, right off the bat. I'm not proud to say that none of it was let's go back and give it to this kid. Somehow that didn't occur to us that was an option, that we could just turn around or leave it at the restaurant. So if he came back, he'd easily get it, like with the staff.
People start trying to figure out what we're going to do with this thing.
At some point, it was brought up that, like, I think Sage might have put forward, like, guys, let's just take it back to Hampshire, and then, like, Alexi will mail it.
But about now is when we start seeing the ridiculous signs for south of the border coming up.
South of the border.
Actually, could I get you describing what south of the border is to someone that doesn't know?
South of the border is between North Carolina and South Carolina, which is really just the most unfortunate place that exists. Because for some reason, it thought it was funny because it's, south of the border of North Carolina into South Carolina, but also south of the border is the way people say Mexico. So let's just do a Mexican theme. We're just,
Let's be clear first, also because you're from North Carolina, but a lot of people aren't. So south of the border is like this crazy, racist truck stop.
There's a million posters everywhere. Like billboards? Yeah, billboards featuring our friend Pedro.
There are these really large, maybe like 200-foot, structures of Mexican men. Quotes. It's one man, Pedro, with a sombrero and a poncho. And then everything's Mexican themed. Pedro has like restaurants and he has golf course and they're just sombreros and like mariachi and like really all these weird dinosaurs also around and animals. Yeah, I don't get it at all.
Basically, the idea is that South Carolina has looser regulations on like fireworks and like alcohol and things than North Carolina. You can buy fireworks, you can buy sombreros.
Truly a help.
You can buy literally anything. There used to be a place, I've looked it up on Wikipedia, apparently there used to be a place called like the Dirty Old Man Hole. Or not hole, the Dirty Old Man something. Where there was like a strip club there.
Oh,
there's
great.
this whole compound of like restaurants.
It's like very clearly
shops.
right out of the 50s like car culture America.
Yeah.
It's like very clear that like in the 50s when people with those like sporty like Cadillacs and shit, it was just roaring all the time. And now it is like it's amazing that it's still standing.
No one's there. It's deserted. There's probably murderers, and there's probably making meth somewhere in that area.
So it sounds like your opinion on it just lies somewhere on the spectrum between offended and confused.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that's perfect. I don't know even what type of racism is going on. That's kind of how I feel when I'm there. I don't feel safe. But I also want to play a round of golf.
And they have these billboards, probably like hundreds of miles in both
About
directions on the
100
highway.
miles on each side.
That are just like
Bad
more
puns.
racist caricatures with bad puns about how far you are away from south of the border.
Can I get an example of some of the puns?
Well, there's
the classic one.
Yeah, you never sausage a place with like
You're always
sausage.
a wiener at
Yeah,
Pedro's.
you're always a wiener at Pedro's, and there's just like this big sausage and this Mexican dude in a poncho and a sombrero in a hammock strung up between 2 palm trees, and
Yeah,
several
just
miles later,
make
he's
any
in a
sense.
hammock strung up between 2 cactuses.
So
was it Derek's idea?
it's about now that we start seeing these billboards, and I guess it was probably Derek gets the idea of like, what if instead of leaving it at Bojangles, we just leave it at south of the border? Which, like, keep in mind, it's like 100 miles away.
Okay, it's like 80.
It's like 80 miles away from this Bojangles where we found it. So we're gonna drive down the highway 80 miles and then drop off this phone.
Where they fell in love when stars above came out to play. And now as they wander, their thoughts ever stray
Well, Alexei, the unscrupulous man who is kind of the fuel for this fire, was not fazed by how entertained everyone was at the fact that he had just robbed someone. I would say he was maybe even bored.
At one point during the debate, Alexei goes, "How do you plant corn on this thing?"
He had a farming simulator on his phone.
It's literally an app called Farm Simulator.
What the fuck is
Farming Simulator? Oh, it was great. So, I don't know the farming terms, you'll have to ask Rhett. But basically, there was this nice big machine in the field, and I pressed this button that had the icon for corn on it. And I could see that as I was moving around and steering the machine, these little seeds just popped out. And I felt very much accomplished planting an entire field of corn, as around me people were debating different things and putting up different opinions for things.
So you drove a tractor.
It's a game on the phone.
It's a game. Tilt it around, you can accelerate, decelerate, plant some corn, tend to your crops. I guess he was training for his future in the agriculture industry, but Alexei really liked that game. Actually, he spent a good deal of the ride playing the farming simulator.
Jesus. Alexei starts beating games for this kid, like going on to like the video games he has saved, like to the pause levels, and like continuing the kid's progress. So that was like kind of nice, I guess. Like, getting them, leveling them up or whatever.
Because he started going through their texts.
Yeah, so like people like going through his text messages. I thought that was weird. I was like, we already took this kid's phone. Like, we should maybe not NSA like invade his privacy. Also, everyone's like, nah, fuck that. Like, let's do that. I was like, all right. So that happened.
Well, we kind of had to know who we were dealing with. Who is this guy? What are his wants, desires?
You just want to get to know him a little.
Yeah, everyone get to know him. Get to know the guy. Something's up with this kid. Something's up.
First of all, this guy doesn't have a password lock on his phone at all, so you just swipe it, you open it up.
And it's on airplane mode, but he can still access emails, texts, the apps on the phone, pictures.
This is important, okay, because what we found on the phone made us automatically so much less sympathetic towards this person.
Like, the apps he's got is the flashlight app. He's got calendars, Google Calendars, Gmail.
It's hard to tell us in line because there's a lot of things going on. What's been happening concurrently with the debate has been Alexei first saying, "Oh, this guy likes asses," and we go, "What? What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, top 10 asses, volumes 1 and 2."
This kid had 4 separate apps on his phone for viewing asses.
Ass apps. He has top 10 asses. He has Top 10 Asses version 2. He has
I thought it was volume 2.
daily ass videos. Yeah, daily ass.
Best butts.
Something like that. So he's into asses.
What's an app like?
What an app for asses, dude?
What do you mean an app for asses?
You get your top 10 asses every day or every week. They come in, you go through, you rate, you view. I assume.
I mean, you assume you guys checked out these apps.
At that point, we were not connected to the internet.
Did you, Sam? Did you look at the?
None of us opened the ass app at all. That didn't happen.
Are you a little curious, or
not really?
So maybe it was like could have just been a cover. Maybe it was an agent of the government. But
no, it was definitely just asses.
It was he was a.
So I had been imagining that this was the phone of maybe a 30-year-old guy,
like a trucker, maybe something like.
Yeah.
I thought trucker. I immediately thought, I don't know why, but I thought trucker.
And Alexei starts to find pictures of the guy, and he's like this chubby, younger South Carolinian. There's a debate that goes on that's a side debate about if he is 14 or 17. I still think he was 17
because he was clearly in high school.
Mm-hmm.
That was not up for debate. And he looked very young.
But he looks, for lack of a better term, like a bit of a dirtbag. And, doesn't really engender any sort of sympathy in any of us. And then Alexei keeps going through his texts and finds that he's been doing some, low-rate sexting with someone where he sent shirtless pictures.
Low-rate
Yeah.
And he finds these selfies.
Lots of them. We found these selfies of him, in his bathroom in $5 sunglasses, all these angles trying to look like a fucking badass. I don't know, he was on that sexting bandwagon. We had some saved Snapchats.
What?
I think the one thing that really defined him, and you really get a mental picture of this kid when you see a screenshot from Snapchat of him sort of like lounging awkwardly on a bed, just sort of like formless flub with like a really weird face and the caption that says "Be nice." Is it "Be gentle"?
Be nice to me. I'm new at this.
Be nice. I'm just learning.
Be nice. I'm still
learning.
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 I actually did. I personally looked through some of his text messages. He didn't seem, I mean, people were finding other stuff about, he was kind of an asshole and he was racist and all this stuff. And I didn't personally find any of that. I looked through a couple of text messages and they were kind of just boring stuff. I was shown a picture of this guy and I kind of started laughing. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, this guy, like, we can leave his phone. Which sounds so terrible.
I don't remember who. Could have been me. Suggested that we stop it south of the border if we stop and put it anywhere. When that happens, we all start to kind of laugh. It starts to gain a little steam, and then from the back, Tomer, bless his heart, says, "Wait, are you serious?" And I'm like leaning back, like looking back at Tomer, who is in the back left corner of the van. And he's just like, why are we even talking about this? Of course we should just bring it home and have Alexi mail it to him. And like, why would we just mail it to him? That's all. Like, that's totally a thing to do. And there's like a pause where everyone's kind of like, deflated. Like, oh, okay, well that's not fun, but it totally makes sense that we would do that. And then I was like, interesting, Tomer. Any counter arguments? Like trying to continue this going. And for some reason, like, no one's really saying. Colin clearly wants there to be a counter-argument, but isn't quite formulating one. And I just, like, take over at this point.
Derek takes it upon himself to turn this into a moral philosophy 101 course, which I was very excited about.
Derek pitched himself as, like, an impartial mediator of the debate. But more was just, I think, trying to find entertainment for himself. Or see how much power he had over the Frisbee team in the van. Quite a lot is the answer to that.
So again, I think Derek had a lot of weight in what was going on. He was very much able to kind of guide the conversation in a particular direction. Not to say that he's diabolical or anything, but...
Derek looks literally like Satan. He's got the hat, he's got the glasses, the beard.
And with his pointed beard and his sunglasses, when he's like
raise one eyebrow. Sharp features, a goatee, grin like the devil, and sunglasses just staring back at us with this look of like delight and intensity like I've never seen in a person.
And he's in the front seat, and like you can't see his whole face, you can only see like the side of it because he's like kind of turned around. So he totally looks like, Lucifer. And so that added a whole other element of like, like the devil was trying to lead us astray and whatnot.
He looked like we were making a deal with the devil.
And so who is Derek on the team? Like, why did he already have a position of power?
Derek is like a father to many people, maybe. He's like the team captain, but he's also, as he said in the van ride, people have been looking to him the entire trip for guidance, for advice, because he's one of the most senior people on the team. He's old as shit, so that's part of that. But he was a big part of organizing the trip and a big part of the direction of the team, especially for less experienced people. Suffice to say, he has a lot of power and a lot of sway, and a lot of people put their trust in him. He said if we were taking it back to Hampshire, we were basically deferring judgment and just pushing responsibility down the road and pushing it to Alexi.
One of my biggest pet peeves with people is, especially with like college students and Hampshire students, is that there's a real tendency to push off any sort of blame morally by not acting on something and seeing that as though you have taken yourself out of moral culpability, which is like a huge issue I have with a lot of things of like inaction being a form of sort of moral fault, if that makes any sense. And so I bring up a point which I found very valid after kind of searching for a little bit, like trying to get my brain going. I bring a point where I say, I had been joking a little bit, being like, well, like, he's not in the car and we are, and all that we can really know is our own experience right now, and our experience would be made a lot better if we left it south of the border. But after like putting out some bullshit like that, I like finally decided to come in with. We keep saying that Alexei is going to bring it back. Like that's an assumption that we're making right now that's going to happen. But like, do we know that he's actually going to bring this back? Do we actually know that he's going to do this?
And that's when Alexei brings up that he still hasn't mailed back his Super Bowl winning ticket that he bought before Super Bowl happened. It was worth like $300, something like that. And he still hasn't mailed that in to get the money.
May of 2013, I was in Vegas and placed a bet on the Super Bowl, which ended up winning. I ended up winning that bet, so I got maybe $250 from that, assuming that I mail in the winning ticket, which I haven't done yet.
The Super Bowl was how many months ago? 2 months ago?
Yeah, it was about 2 months ago. It was in February.
And it's like, oh boy, all right, well, that doesn't bode well for Alexei actually being a responsible human being.
I thought that was a fair perception to have. I mean, to be honest, I don't know what I would have done with it either. Most realistically, I would see myself messing around with it a bit, reading through some stuff until I get bored with it.
Keep in mind, deadline is south of the border, about 100 miles away. We're going like 100 miles an hour or whatever, so it's like an hour away.
Probably not. Anyway.
50 miles an hour. We're speeding. Like we're not going 60. My grandma wasn't driving.
It was either Sage or I said we're gonna have to vote.
We like fell into this very strange game, and it had all these rules that started emerging of like we're going to vote on this democratically.
Well, surprisingly, we had really true democracy going on in there.
It's like we're gonna put this to a democratic vote. What happens to the phone? And that's when like the debate started. There were like several straw polls. I think 2 straw polls and 1 final actual vote.
Any one of us could have said, I'll take it. I'll make sure it gets back. Or any one of us could have said, turn around. Like at any point during this entire thing, could have said, turn around. No one did. Sage maintained she would not have turned around. She was driving. But they still could have said it. No one really wanted anything to do with it. But it was in the car and we were a part of it. And that was not something we could avoid, which is why I wanted it to be a vote.
Derek puts forth that when we see the 5 miles south of the border sign that we have to vote, and whatever everyone votes on is going to happen.
So Derek said that, we have essentially 2 options presented to ourselves.
Our 2 options are we're gonna mail it back, or we're gonna leave it south of the border. Like those are like there was no other options. Like these were the 2.
It was probably like 40 minutes of debate about what we should do with this phone, going back and forth. We were going back and forth like, all right, well, it's kind of a shitty thing it's a very shitty thing to do to just take this phone, drive it 80 miles away, and leave it. Yeah. But it'd also be hilarious and like such a better story.
And I'm also feeling like, this phone was already lost.
Right, it had been there for like 20 minutes when Alexei picked it up.
like 40 minutes.
40 minutes, yeah, when Alexei picked it up. So like, it's not...
It's not like he was about to come back and pick it up. And, I mean, I don't know. That does sort of make a difference.
It totally does.
At first I was worried because I had a family friend who lost his smartphone one time and almost got fired from his job because he had all his secret job stuff. So I was worried that was what was happening, but we quickly found out it was just some shitty kid who doesn't need a smartphone.
However, I think Colin made a good point saying this didn't seem like an important phone. Like obviously it was a piece of this person's life, but this was essentially like a multi-$100 ass machine.
If he's using it for that kind of stupid shit, then on some level, we did him a favor.
There wasn't any real work on it. It was essentially just poorly shot attempts at sexting, ass apps, a tractor app, and farming simulator were the only really notable things on it.
So we go through a couple of straw polls along the way too. The first time I do a straw poll. Thumbs up if you want to leave it. It's out of the border. Thumbs down if you don't. And it's like 8 people are thumbs up. Sage is to the side. Sam is like struggling. And Tomeir's thumbs down. Something I started to realize that was happening too was that Sam was the most fascinating human being of all, very quietly. Because what I realized was happening was that Sam's view of morality was being challenged. Understandably. Why should we take this phone that we've taken and just leave it somewhere? Sure, it's a fair point. but it was being counter-challenged by the way that the group wanted to go. And he clearly was like struggling with this in the middle thumb, where like he didn't want to go down, he didn't want to go up, he didn't know what to do.
I didn't really know what to think.
What did you vote?
I didn't vote the first time.
Really? Why is
Yeah.
that?
I just hadn't made up my mind of what to do with it.
Not into it. He seemed very conflicted. I was kind of like watching him a little bit because I wanted to make sure there was no one who's quietly pissed off at everyone. Finally, we start approaching south of the border. We're about 10 miles away, and we decide an arbitrary point of 5 miles. We take our vote.
5 miles from south
of the border. Because you see the signs, and they always say every 10 feet. So basically, once we get to that point, Tomer's like, "Fine, I'll fucking take it."
First thing he said was kind of laughing because he's Tomer and he can't ever say anything without laughing. Guys, this is ridiculous. This is like really fucked up. You can't do this.
This is fucked. This is fucked, man.
Tomer stood up and said, well, didn't literally stand up, but he suggested that he could mail it back if I wouldn't.
I was like, this is like ridiculous. Like, we can't leave it south of the border. We gotta like mail it back.
To his credit, does volunteer to do that. Clearly, heart's not in it. As evidenced by what happened next.
Tomer put himself forward as someone who could have mailed it back. I think he just felt very obligated to do so because no one was doing the right thing in this situation. And he did present a little bit of an argument against Derek, but it was a failure in putting charisma into it, because his argument was just like what we all knew. It was like, guys, this is stupid. Let's give this person their phone back.
And then there was this moment when we were like, wait, like, Tomer has actually volunteered to send this phone back, and he is probably more reliable than Alexei, and he might actually send this phone back. Like, we need to kind of reevaluate.
Forrest starts to seem very genuinely, it sounds like bullshit, but very genuinely...
I didn't feel comfortable putting that onus on Tomer. I felt like, because it's a phone, it's not going to be free to mail back. Like, it's not going to be expensive, but it's going to be like a couple dollars at least.
Tomer quickly backs out of that when he realizes it's going to cost money to send it back.
Even though it was like probably like $5.
Yeah. It would have been very cheap.
I didn't want to make Tomer go through that inconvenience and like make him spend some of his money to mail it back when he really had very little to do with it.
So why didn't you
obviously
offer to chip in?
What?
Why didn't you like help pay for mailing?
Because I didn't want to spend my money either.
And also that it would be he couldn't imagine the situation of how to get the person's address from them.
Edward, the person we stole the phone from, was a non-issue. Like, we've never met him. We've never seen him. He might not even exist. He could be a fake constructed person for all we fucking know. So I think people wanted to keep him that way. They didn't want the like, oh, hey, I have your phone. Like, can I send this to you? Because we stole it.
It wasn't clear what we're going to do at that point. It was definitely majority were like, like south of the border,
So we're like coming down to the wire, like a couple miles to go, and Derek just goes on this impassioned speech where he really, like, if you really listen, he didn't say anything.
He didn't say anything. I was really paying attention to that because I wanted him. And
he said nothing.
We were going to leave it south of the border, which, in our heads sounded, pretty bad and nefarious, but Derek really made it sound good because, he's a charismatic guy, man.
I could tell that after he said that, like, the atmosphere in the car was more comfortable with it. And I don't even know what he said because it
wasn't anything. But it was really impassioned and very charismatic.
And he used a lot of, like, really, like... I don't know, just like words that like incited the passion.
He's an actor. He's a drama kid. Like he can convince anyone if he wants to.
It ultimately became, we're going to go to south of the border and we're going to leave it there.
It should be said that this drive has been 80 miles. Lasted a little over an hour. It's not an unreasonable distance for someone in that area to go. It's an hour and a half maybe away. It's going to be a day trip for sure, but then they get to go to south of the border. What's wrong with that?
It was more likely that he would get the phone in like a reasonable amount of time if it was left at south of the border.
We finally get to 5 miles and we take a vote, and there's 8 hands up. And Colin goes, everyone kind of like goes up, and I'm like, oh, that, and they're like, oh, it looks like the majority. Everyone puts their hands down. Colin's like, no, keep your hands up. keep your hands up. Be proud of your choice. Like, we're like really pushing this heavy. And those 8 people were me, Colin, Keenan, Forrest, Adam, Hannah came out very comfortable with this choice. Very comfortable with this choice. Gabe, who still seemed to be on the get it the fuck out of here bandwagon.
I didn't want to go through another state with this thing in our car. I didn't want to be anywhere near this thing anymore. So, yeah, I voted to leave it at south of the border.
And God, who was the 8th? I'm gonna get this because it needs to be known who did it. Greg. Greg was the 8th. Greg was number 8.
So Alexi didn't vote?
Alexi very pointedly abstained.
Stone Cold Alexi didn't vote, didn't take an opinion on it whatsoever, before or after.
I had said at one point, like, Alexi, like, well, like, we were in the middle of this debate, and I was like, well, like, Alexi, really, like, what would you want to do? He was like, I just think you guys I'll do whatever you guys do if you vote on it. Like, he very, very cleverly just, like, left it all for us. So Alexi he abstained from the vote. Sage was, like, not against it. She had said that she was like, I want to abstain, and I was like, you can't abstain for no reason. Just made it up. Sam also, I think, wanted to abstain, and Tomer was just, like, shaking his head the whole time, like, oh my God.
South of the border. So it's decided we're gonna leave this phone at south of the border.
And as we drive up, we see the giant Pedro statue, the centerpiece, well, not the centerpiece, the big hat water tower is the centerpiece, but it's an observation tower, not water tower. Sorry. The mascot of South of the Border, who welcomes you as you drive up this incredibly racist establishment, if it can even be called that. Establishment, not racist.
Anyway, we pull in, we stop. Gabe is stressed out. Forrest is stressed out. I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Because I have to poop after all this talk. As is happening, everyone who has a sombrero is wearing it. It's just a requirement.
Keenan just tells me, you can't go out there without putting your sombrero on. So naturally, I put the sombrero on because peer pressure.
Okay, Alexi puts on one of the sombreros.
Okay, right.
We got us out of the border on the way down.
Okay.
And we also, well, to be fair, that was attributed to you and your peer pressuring.
The sombreros?
Yeah.
No. I mean, we suggested. It wasn't like, Alexi.
Yeah, he was pretty ready to buy
It was just like, as soon... Oh, to buy the sombrero?
No, to put it on.
Oh, no, I mean, that was easy. It was just like, oh, yeah, and a sombrero. And he was like, of course, I'll put on the sombrero.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you?
So we're gonna leave Edward's phone at south of the border, and now the debate is where. What are we gonna do with this phone at south of the border? Are we gonna just like hide it under some sombreros in one of the stores? We're gonna put it in a mug.
No, it might get like actually taken there though. Like I want to make sure. That
oh yeah, not take it like you guys. Take
right. Well, yeah, we took it, but now if we're gonna put it somewhere and then text this guy and make him drive all this way, it's like way shittier for us to like not at least guarantee it'll be there for him.
We wanted to make sure that someone else wouldn't find it. We wanted to make sure that the only person who would find it was Edward.
It's funny because he might actually do that and be successful, and I want that to be a stronger possibility than that he just kind of like has a shitty day for nothing. You know, I want it to be a thing that can happen, because at the other end of it, I pointed this out several times, what a story for this guy. What a crazy story for this guy.
It's got to be in a place where no one is going, like that he can easily find because he knows where it is, but no one is going to stumble upon it accidentally.
So we're like, maybe we could just give it to one of the clerks and just say, like, we found this phone, like, you know, I just found it somewhere. Not technically lying, you know, just.
But then
we just found it 8 miles away.
And Tamar's like, no. If we're gonna leave it there, let's make it a good place. So it's like, okay, I see where you're at, Tamar. I got you.
If we're going through this to take it to south of the border, we wanted to
go all the way. Go all the fucking way.
Like, it's not like we're gonna make it any easier for Edward at this point.
Exactly. He's already driving 80
So
miles.
what we decided to do was leave it with a Pedro. They have these big,
giant fiberglass statues,
30 feet tall,
racist caricatures named Pedro. I had been like a little bit behind the group. The whole group was over there just like enjoying this moment, and I'd been a little. I had to like put my shoes on or something, so I'd been a little bit behind. So I walk up as they're like getting ready to put it. And they're like, "Where should we put it?" And I just like see there's like the foot, and there's like a little hole right here. There's a little hole in the foot of the Pedro, and I'm like, guys, there's a hole in Pedro's foot. It's exactly smartphone size.
Yeah. How beautiful is that?
So there's this fate. It was really fate. This was the moment where I was like, all right, this is what we were supposed to do.
There's like a little hole in his foot, so they leave it there. It's on, so he can like track it if he wanted to, or if he was smart enough to have a tracking app on his phone, which he didn't. They take a picture of it and text the person who had called the phone when I was in my hands, and I tossed it at Alexi.
Logan Daniels, the guy who called earlier. We're just gonna text Logan. We don't really know who Logan is. We don't know if it's like, judging by the text messages, could have been a brother, could have been a friend he hasn't seen in months.
And I make the seemingly very long walk from the van to the statue that says "Welcome to the South of the Border," with this like the statue right next to that sign. And I believe Adam was following, Keenan, Forrest, Tomer. I take a picture of it and attach it to the text that Forrest and I plan out, saying, "We left the phone with Pedro."
I helped Alexi craft the text that was like, "Your phone is in Pedro's foot south of the border."
Which doesn't make sense because it wasn't Logan's phone. It was Edward's phone.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, but he knew.
Maybe.
Who placed the phone in the shoe?
It was Alexi, and Forrest was like getting in there. He's like, "Oh no, push it further, push it further." He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna help craft the text now," and like, yeah, he wanted to have a hand in that.
What's going on through your head? Where are you?
I'm hiding behind a sign, so I'm not in the picture at this point. I wanted to get out of the car to stretch my legs, and because we're obviously going to be stopped for a little bit, and there's nothing I can do about it at this point.
Yeah, so right after we put the phone down into the foot of Pedro, it was bizarre. Like, everyone immediately was like, "We need to get out of here." Like, I am very afraid. I don't know why, but we've dropped this bomb and we need to like evacuate. Because like the text had been sent, contact had been made, and then like suddenly it got fucking real.
All this time, like, Forrest is sometimes just interjecting, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to be in the van again. I don't want to stay here." But, people were off doing their own thing. Some people went to the bathroom. Some people bought some things. So we ended up staying there for quite a bit.
The drivers, Derek and Sage, had gone off somewhere else. So we get back to the van, and the van's locked.
And we're so uncomfortable.
And Forrest is more comfortable than anyone else. But everyone's like a little bit shifty. Like, we really just want to get in the van and get out of here.
Oh, and so there's been this guy.
There was another car parked fairly close to the statue with a person in it. And I feel like that might have been what unnerved Forrest slightly. Because I could see that the person in the van or in the other car was sometimes just like peering over and seeing what we were doing.
This guy in an SUV, this like pretty well dressed, not like well dressed, but like
just respectable.
Yeah, a pretty respectable guy in an SUV. Just like he was sitting there in his car and he was like watching us because we were the only thing going on.
Right.
But, to him we were just like taking a picture with Pedro and then like hanging out around Pedro. Alexi walks up to him. And we're like, "Alexi, what the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck away. Just, like, don't talk to anyone." And he leans over to the guy, and the guy, like, talks to him. They talk for a second. And Alexi just, like, wanders back to us. We're like, "Alexi, what did you talk to him about?"
I went up and asked for the time.
Why did you? I was like, "Why do you ask for the time?"
We know what time it is.
And he goes, "Well, I just want to, make sure he didn't think we were doing anything shifty."
To gauge the level of suspicion.
Wow.
Excuse me.
What was the suspicion level?
Not very high.
Oh.
She was very cordial with me. She said, "Oh, it's this," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then, we went about our ways. She pulled out of the driveway in another few minutes or so.
Sage is still in the bathroom. I'm back, and Forrest is just like, "Okay, I just really want to get out of here. Let's just get moving.
We gotta get Sage and just fucking book it. That was the last we saw that phone, man.
And there was this weird sense of like burying a body in some way. Everyone was like, "Let's leave."
Yeah, they were crowding around the van like, "Where's Sage?"
Yeah, people were panicking. It was awesome. So as we're like driving away, I'm like emphasizing, like, "Hey, if anyone feels guilty about this, like, use it as a learning tool. Like, it's something that, like, you've learned about yourself. You've learned a lot about, like, the process of being a bystander, like, all this stuff. And we end up, like, unpacking for another hour, just, like, what had happened. All of the ethical ramifications, like, all the possible ways it could have gone, things that other people on the team would have said.
I fell asleep during this conversation and woke up, and they're still going on it.
Yeah,
Jesus
and it
Christ.
was...
Everyone seemed to think that Dylan would have been, like, really upset. To the point where Forrest was like, I don't want to tell Dylan this story. And I was like, I'm going to tell Dylan this story. I'm sorry. We're not going to agree not to tell Dylan the story. And there was, like, you know, we all brought up, like, how are we going to... The running theme was no one who wasn't there is going to understand this. And no one's going to be able to understand what happened. Because it was such a bizarre situation having Alexei come into the van and just say, I found a phone. That scenario was insane. And from that point, everything was just pure, silly craziness.
It was like getting slapped, actually.
What do you mean?
Like that... I don't know. Like, there's something about...
Getting slapped in the head?
Yeah, like that just... Bang, that moment of pain. That's what this... For some reason, that's what that makes me think of.
That sounds awful.
Yes.
Can you, I'm just throwing this out there. If you feel comfortable, maybe Dylan lays a beat. That's gotta be loud.
Alright, I'm gonna try to do this. So it's true, I wasn't in the van, but I heard the story from one of my mans. They told me that Alexei stole a phone and then left this south of border and then went home. What an asshole. That was probably someone's phone. They needed that to call to their home, even though they leaving that back at the place. He's still an asshole.
It did make the van ride go a lot smoother. Like, it really did eat up like 4 hours of time, maybe 3.
You were doing it for the community.
Not at first. At first it was all me.
Well, I wasn't there, but I was told the story like I was there. And I feel like I was there. But Lexi was like, oh, I guess I'll just take it back with me to Massachusetts. What a selfish bastard.
You think those were his exact thoughts when he took the phone?
No, I didn't even think he thought about it, which just makes it even worse. It wasn't even going through his head. Or he did think about it, and it makes it even worse because he knew.
Describe, these people in the van, like, what kind of people are they? Like, these are your teammates? Are they, what do you say, they're good people? Like, because, how is this going to sound to people that don't know everyone? They just took a phone and they left it at south of the border,
Yeah, they're not good people. No one on the team is really that good a person. I consider myself probably the best person on the team, and I'm an asshole. So that just speaks pretty poorly of the rest of the group.
Derek was very clear about how, what a terrible person he was being. He stated that. He was like, this is what's happening, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which made us all feel more okay with us being terrible, which is what we wanted.
I think it's interesting that, like, if someone else made the argument with me to mail it back, I wonder how it would have went.
Of all of the people in the van, it fascinated me. And I really gained a lot of respect for Tomer that he was the one that spoke up in a very no-nonsense way about this. And I did not want to shut him down for doing that, but I wanted us to leave it south of the border. So that was our dynamic the entire trip.
Let's go into, because I only have 10 minutes before I have to go to class. This is a profound story in my opinion. Like, this is a Lord of the Flies. You're literally on an island.
Yeah.
Just like traveling on I-95 across the entire eastern seaboard, And here you guys are with these crazy dynamics flying. Like the captain of the team, this wearing a Hawaiian shirt, sunglasses, and big beard, is turning around, just like prophesizing doom. The voice of reason stuck in the back corner. He's just a lowly first year. And meanwhile, you have Alexei, who stole the phone, perfectly center in the van.
Yeah.
Like this whole thing is like has beautiful imagery.
People can take a philosophy class with this type of a scenario.
Yeah, it really felt like a seminar. in a weird way. Like, I should have gotten credit afterwards. Like, we all, like, had a very... We, like, all really went there. The big themes that came up were, well, this cost this person money. And, like, this also could mean a lot to them. And, like, what are we doing, like, just deciding to have it be a funny story to go to this? Very legitimate. Probably the correct moral and ethical point of view. However, I will stand by the fact that my favorite motif was that Alexi is not a trustworthy human being to mail things or to deal with the postal system. I also thought it was interesting that things came up. Do we think this guy is old enough to have a driver's license? That was a question that was parsed over with his pictures. Like, what if he doesn't have a ride? Does it matter that he seems like someone we wouldn't like? You know, is that important? Would this have been different if it was a girl who had the phone?
Or an old woman. Like,
or an old woman.
A grandmother with pictures of her kids.
Right, yeah. How does that, like, how does that change what we do?
Oh, you're a douchebag. Why did you take the phone?
Let's let this happen.
Why did you take the phone in the first place? And where did you find it? Come on, dude. Seriously.
Joe, are you okay, man?
I don't know, but Alexi, why?
I found it in the bathroom. There was no passcode, and I was interested in it, so I took it.
That's it.
I mean, what else could I possibly say?
Give it to the person at the front desk. Wait, like, where were you?
We're in the bathroom of the fast food place.
Yeah.
Like the fast food place.
Everyone had left already. I had to get to the van.
Damn it,
There wasn't any time.
I don't understand.
I think there's semantics to be
Alexi,
argued between stealing and
I would
finding.
never think of you as someone
Because
who would take
stealing implies taking something off of someone's person or from their domain of where they live, whereas finding something is coming across something in this particular place that you then pick up and take for yourself.
Joe's sitting here with his long ass hair and ponytail that he's been going since 7 years old, and his classic red and yellow, what are those called? Crocs. Sweatpants. He's now, as I speak, putting his long hair up his nostrils. A few of you may be familiar with this practice.
Bojangles? What the fuck is Bojangles?
Bojangles.
McDonald's is a thing, but Bojangles.
Bojangles.
Bojangle? What the fuck is
It's
that?
a southern chicken franchise.
If I could just interject here, because I've been interviewing people for a month now, you know, I've heard this story a lot, and I was not in the van, but now this story has taken on a new meaning for me, and it hits a little bit closer to home, because my phone no longer works, and I have been without a phone for over a week now, and I can say that it is really, really difficult to live in this world without a phone. I'm also not in a financial situation to get a new phone. Like, I have a pretty shitty phone. I don't have a smartphone, so I couldn't even... Downloading ass apps would not even be a possibility for me. So for me, like, I just want another flip phone. I just want another shitty phone. And those things run up to, like, $200 today. And that's insane, and I'm, like, not in a position to get that. And I would love for someone to just give me a free phone, or, like, somehow restore my broken one. So...
Or find and return one that they stole.
Right, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I just, having heard this so many times, it's like, this now
This phone could've been
sounds
yours.
that much shittier to me, because it's like, damn, this is a lot of money that
This phone could have been yours.
Yeah, Alexi has his hand raised, go ahead.
But think about circumstances as well. Like, you're a college student with way more obligations and priorities than probably what we concluded to be like a high school kid from South Carolina. Just putting that out there. Plus the fact that he was able to purchase all those ass apps.
You're assuming a
and
lot.
or
Do the ass apps cost anything?
I don't know.
Like a
But
buck.
I'm assuming, given the phone that it was, like
But these are things that we're just pulling out of our ass to make it so that what we did seems more reasonable. You don't know that's
fair.
true,
I don't.
and you don't care.
I don't really care. I'm just saying, consider circumstances. Like, consider different circumstances and variables that factor in.
I read something to say.
Alright, do we know what kind of kid this was? I was under the assumption he was like from like rural South Carolina. Do we know?
Oh, we never asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he likes farming. He's the tractor.
Yes, he's a farming kid. When I heard this story, I kind of connected this. Farming kids like save money sometimes and like buy what?
You're louder.
Okay, yeah, like he could have saved the money himself, or like worked, or like picked his parents, and it's like a high value phone, and I just feel like I don't know, this was kind of a shitty thing to do. But yes, good people. I'm from New Hampshire, and
Like
I'm
Vermont,
a farmer,
right?
no, fuck off, alright? It's done with that. Alright, I'm from New Hampshire, I'm a farmer, I grew up around farming people. They're cool people. I don't know about the southern farmers. You usually do like agribusiness and stuff like that, but he could be from a small farm, and and a lot of the
Well, I'm
farmers.
not from a farm.
And yeah, and all farmers have like similar values. I don't know. He could be some prick from the south. We don't know. We're assuming things. When
One of
someone
us.
said he was like a farmer kid, I was like, shit, like that sucks. Like he
You don't know
like
if he's
probably
a
like
farmer
got
kid.
this phone finally, like, or maybe he was a rich kid. Like we don't know. I can't assume either way. But like either way, it's like an expensive phone, and it sucks for anyone to have to like rebuy that or whatever.
Plus, this is like an auto case.
And it's not like he's not a college student, so he doesn't have obligations.
Right.
Like, he's a kid with a life, you know.
Phones are valuable. You should
It
assume
was a
that they
part of
can't
his
get
life,
it.
so
It's
I-
fucked.
I'm just saying.
It's fucked, dude.
I don't want to say like
It's
the
fucked, man. And you know what? If Alex Leff did have a smartphone, he would have so many ass apps. No, he's a good guy, so there's no argument in that.
Yeah, and yeah.
This is why it's so
Well, that's just
interesting
not
to
going
open
to-
everything up to just
Do you-
thoughts and opinions.
Oh.
If I had just immediately said what I was going to do with it, none of that would have happened.
Unless he was just
That was
playing
very
everybody.
fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, so Alexi, speak to that, man. Like, because you took it. People think you took a passive role, but you actively did not give your opinion this whole
Damn.
time.
He didn't vote. He was like, I literally don't care what happens to this phone. I'm gonna play games with it until I stop having it. And I was like, what? You're a robot. You're a goddamn robot, Alexi. It's crazy.
Because really, that's what I think is the biggest thing to take away from it, is that it's all just different variables and different factors that accumulate into this one event that happened in the particular way that it did.
Right. So so there's no like set like these are I'm Alexi, these are my rules, this is what I will do in any given situation, this is what I won't do. You're saying it's pretty circumstantial and it depends on the specific event, who's involved, what's involved, the
Mhm.
history of the event, etc.
I think having a very strict set of rules and standards for yourself leaves you liable to a lot of hypocrisy. And I don't want to be caught in the hypocrisy. I'd much rather have a more malleable tone to different things and how I function. Morals and ethics being one of them, apparently.
You've been listening to the events that transpired in the van. Thank you to our participants and listeners. We are eternally grateful to Lorraine Ellison, Patsy Cline, Marty Roberts, and Blue Scholars for legally agreeing to have their work represented in this podcast. And to that guy on YouTube, sorry I couldn't find your video again to credit you. And that's all there is. What happened to Edward's phone? Well, that's a story for another generation.